Okay, we've got some very aggressive people in here to talk about the world-famous parent panel, and I was attacked for misspeaking on their behalf. I'm sorry. Sarah Chan was very aggressive there, but we're talking about this idea of redshirting, and the idea comes from down the States where you can redshirt you're in college. So this is what would happen. If your child has a late school or birth date in a school year, you would push that child into the next year. That way he'd have, or he or she would have, perhaps a little bit older, more mature, and could be one of the top students or older students rather than one of the youngest where he or she may struggle. So this whole idea of redshirting, I'm not putting words in your mouth, Sarah. Do you or do you not like this idea of the redshirting?
Oh, well, you just made it sound as though we all had come to some consensus, but it was just
I can't do anything right.
It was a misspeak.
Okay.
I'm not a educational expert when it comes to. I'm an educational expert when it comes to teaching music, but in terms of who's ready for school and who's not, there's actually a lot of science behind this. I think the science says you should wait if you have a younger kid. That being said, I'm sure we all know people who were the baby person in the class or the younger person in the class, and I think in most cases those people are fine and have come through in an all right sort of way. Though a principal recently told me it's never bad to have more years of education. So like a really great gift you can give your kids is for them to be in school, and I never thought about it that way before. So taking that into account, maybe it's a good idea. Because
the report and we're looking at here, the data says it does, there are some advantages. But I guess the question is, do we really need a research to figure that out? Because it would seem to me, if you're older than you were a year earlier, would you not be more successful already? Is that kind of, am I just playing it down?
Well, I mean, I think developmentally, obviously, you're more, your neural pathways are more developed, and however, I think we're missing the point too. People lots of times don't have the opportunity to, they need to go back to work. They need to, you have to, daycare is expensive. I think there's also those economic concerns that our families are facing. For me personally, we kept our daughter home just because I wanted her home an extra year. So she'll be older in her grade. I was the same way. My mom is an educator. I sent my two older sisters earlier. She said it made a difference for me, having that extra bit of maturity in the high school years. That's where she found the most critical developmental. So.
Jenny, what do you come out?
Well, my husband is so mad at me that we have a son named Pavel Petrakowski, which is the perfect hockey name, and he was born in November. So we have this exact situation. So, and I think another pressure is that your friends. So Pavel grew up with friends who were just a little bit older than him, like 4 or 5 months. So they're, clearly in that year. And so he went to play school with them. He went to kindergarten with him. And so obviously he was ready. He'd been in 3 years of play school. He was ready for grade 1. But what we are facing and what we faced was serious anxiety with grade 1, and I'm not saying that that's just because he's a little bit younger, but there was other things going on, but certainly that grade 1 transition was really hard for him for about 3 or 4 months, and now we're really working on his reading. And again, I'm not saying it's just because he's younger, but reading is a big struggle, and so is some of his spelling. And so I think to myself now, if he was in grade 1 and only had to, read these couple of things, he would be no problem. But now he should be reading chapter books, and, we're working really hard every day to get him there. So I can see the advantage now. So you talked about, Jason, the science, and do we really need science? But maybe you do need science to talk to parents who are a few years younger than where I'm at to say, okay, there is the science, there is the proof, hold them back if you can. Would I go back and change it? Probably not. He's got a great peer group and things are working out and he's going to be just fine. But certainly with my younger boy, well, he's a July birthday, so it'll just be fine for him. But I would have thought differently with him about potentially holding him back.
That's really interesting. You bring up the peer group. I mean, he grew up with all these people, and now all of a sudden you're asking him to be 1 year behind him. Would they would still be his friends, would they not? Or would it be a different...
Well, there's a different dynamic. Even when you split into different classes, it's not the same with your buddy anymore, right? And so his whole hockey team is all grade 2. Like, it's the grade 2 class, is the hockey, like, so they do everything kind of together, so...
Yeah, ultimately, I think you have to look at the big picture, right? I mean, you have to absolutely consider your child's social network and, their maturity level, and I think, you do what's best for your own child, and I think you base that decision on that.
So who would the conversation be then? Would it be the principal perhaps of a school or the kindergarten teacher saying, hey, you know what, Jason, maybe your child should not stay back, but have another year of kindergarten, or who would you want to have that conversation with, I guess?
Yeah, maybe the principal or maybe just your friends. I'm not sure. Like, I know some parents who have really small boys that are like, I'm definitely holding him back because I want him to have the chance to grow, thinking about high school and thinking about trying to join sports teams and that sort of thing. So I'm not sure if it's, because for me, Pavel's anxiety caught me totally off guard. He's the most social guy ever, and all of a sudden, and I was out of town for a few weeks when he started grade 1, so maybe that, but it was a total shock. I never saw that happening. So how would you even know I thought, grade 1, yeah, of course he's ready for grade 1. I wouldn't have even known that that was something I should talk to.
Well, a great conversation. Continue having. Thanks for sharing everything today. I really appreciate it, ladies. Have a good rest of the week.
Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, let's take a quick break here in Narrow Television. Lots more to come on the show as we work our way till 7 p.m.